Okay, this is the review for the Unit 5 test over applications of linear functions. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. It says, what is the equation in slope-intercept form of a line whose slope is equal to 3 and whose y-intercept is equal to 0, -5? So if the slope is 3, that's going to represent m. So that's m equals 3. And if the y-intercept is 0, -5, that means that b is -5. Okay? So we're just going to use slope-intercept form because we have the slope and we have the y-intercept. So y equals mx plus b. So y equals mx plus b. The slope is m. The y-intercept is b. So we're going to say y equals 3x, and then b is -5, so -5. So if your b is negative, don't forget, you don't have to say plus a negative, you can just say minus instead. Okay? All right. On number 2, it says, a car starts 20 miles from home and travels a speed of 65 miles per hour. Okay? So we're going to look at these numbers. So I see 65 miles per hour, and I know that that one is a rate. I know that a car starts 20 miles from home, and that's going to be a start. Okay? And if I look up here, slope is how the line moves. Y-intercept is where the line begins. So my start is going to be my y-intercept, and my rate is going to be my slope. And we're going to do the same thing. Y equals mx plus b. M is going to be the green one. B is going to be the blue one. So this is y equals 65x and then plus 20. Okay? All right. Number 3. Oh, if you look at it, it says use a relationship to describe the distance d from home and the time traveled t. So if you look here, it says 65 miles per hour. You can always find x in your slope. So hour is going to be x. So instead of writing x, I need to put t for time traveled. Okay? And then instead of writing y, I need to put d for distance. Okay? Because I want you to use those letters. All right, number 3. Jacob makes $14.50 an hour and gets paid commission. All right, so $14.50 an hour, I know that that is a rate, so that's going to be m. That's a rate, m. And he also gets paid a commission. After working for 14 hours, Jacob made $253. Okay, so it doesn't say a start on this problem. It actually gives us a relationship between the number of hours worked and the number of dollars made. Okay, so anytime you notice a relationship between the two things, you know that that's going to be your point. So this is 14 hours, $253. So instead of using y equals mx plus b this time, now we're going to use point-slope form, where we have the slope and a point. This is x1, this is y1. So we say y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and we write our equation. I can fill in m because m is right here in the equation, and we know it's $14.50 an hour. So we say 14.50, and then I'm just going to finish this side. So it's m times x minus x1. Well, x1 is over here in my parentheses, and it's 14. Okay? Now I'm going to fill in the other side. It's y minus y1. So I say y minus y1 is 253. Okay? And that's your equation. You're done. Okay? All right, number 4. The graph shows the number of cookies eaten compared to the number of Brussels sprouts eaten. Gross. Brussels sprouts are nasty. Or maybe you like them. I think they're gross. But anyways, well, I guess if you cook them right, they taste pretty good. Okay. So it says write an equation to represent this situation. So we're going to look at the graph and we're going to write an equation from a graph. So our formula for writing an equation from a graph is y equals mx plus b. Okay, so we have to find m from the graph and we have to find b from the graph. So m is going to be when I make a slope. Okay, so when you make your slope, you can pick any 2 points on the line. It doesn't matter which 2 that you pick, just make sure that they are pretty points, and that means they line up on the grid. So the slope here, then we have to be real careful. We have to make sure, this looks like it's too high, but if I come over here, I notice it's actually from 20 to 10, or 10 to 20, it's actually 10 high. So we have to pay attention to how high it really is. And then if you look over here, this one, it looks like it's 2 across, but really it's from 6 to 12, so it's really 6 across. So my slope is going to be change in y over change in x, and I've actually run out of space here, so I'm going to move this over. Change in y over change in x, which is 10 over 6. And I always like to use a simplified slope. Okay, so that means I can go to my calculator and I can type 10 divided by 6 on my calculator. Okay, 10 divided by 6. And then I push math, enter, enter, and that's going to turn it into the fraction. And my fraction, if you can see on there, is 5/3. Okay, so the slope of this equation is 5/3. Okay, then you look for b. Okay, b is going to be down here at the bottom. This is b, where it touches the y-axis, and it touches the y-axis at 0. Okay, so then we write our equation. Y equals 5/3 x plus 0. Okay, so let's talk about this situation right here. If it says plus 0, that just means plus nothing. We don't write that part of it. Okay, so the actual equation that we're going to write in the very end is 5/3 x. And we just leave it as that. It does not matter though. If you wrote this, that's technically not wrong. Okay? It's only mathematically, it's kind of like writing your R's backwards when you do Toys R Us. Remember the store that closed down this year that made everybody sad? In Toys R Us, you know how they wrote their R's backwards? That's kind of like what that's saying. It's saying if you put plus 0, we know what you mean, but it's not mathematically perfect. Okay? And so that's what we write. We take the 0 away. All right. What does the slope mean in this situation? So if we want to understand what the slope means, we have to look at the axis. So remember, slope is change in y over change in x, and we said the slope was 5/3. Okay? So now we're going to interpret that. We're going to decide, what does that mean? So what does y represent? Well, if you look on the y-axis, it represents the number of Brussels sprouts eaten. And if you look at x, it represents the number of cookies eaten. So to answer this question, we say 5 Brussels sprouts every 3 cookies. That's what this rate means. 5 Brussels sprouts eaten for every 3 cookies. Eaten. Alright, number 5. Number 5 says the cost to repair a car is shown in the graph. Write an equation to represent the graph. So first of all, we have to find m, and second of all, we have to find b. And I always do that. I never leave enough room for m. I'm going to scooch it over a little bit. Because remember, m is change in y over change in x. So let's find that. So we're going to find 2 points. So we'll just start with the first 2 that we see, and we're going to say, okay, this is how much across? 1 across. And how much high? Well, let's look here. It looks like it's 1 high, but no, it's not, because if you look, it's from 50 to 100, so it's actually 50 high. Okay? So the change in y over change in x is 50 over 1, and the y-intercept, or b, is 50. So then we're going to write our equation, y equals mx plus b. Instead of writing m, we're going to put 50. So y equals 50x plus, and then b is 50. And we're done. Okay. All right. To interpret the y-intercept, or to describe its meaning, we're going to write it. So what is the y-intercept? It's 0, 50. Now, we don't write b equals when we're trying to describe its meaning. And usually when they ask for the y-intercept, they really want you to put it as an ordered pair. On the STAR test, sometimes they ask for the y-intercept, but they give you a griddable, and in that case, you just write that 50 in there. But if they ask you for it as a number, as a problem, they're usually going to say that ordered pair in the answer choices. So to interpret this, we know 0 is in the x spot and 50 is in the y spot. So we have to say, what does x mean in this situation? So we're going to look at the x-axis, and x means time in hours. So we're going to say x means hours. What does y mean? Well, we're going to look at the y-axis, and we see that it says it's cost in dollars. So y means dollars. And then you just say 0 hours is $50. 0 hours is $50. Now that looks a little weird. Like, you're not going to see that as an answer choice. So remember, the y-intercept really means the start of a line. So the starting cost is $50. Okay, now that's what you'll probably see as an answer choice, but if you put 0 hours as $50, that's not incorrect either, okay? These two things mean the same thing. So I would take either answer. Alright, number 7. The graph shows the amount covered over the lifetime of a laptop loan. What is the meaning of the x-intercept? So we're going to do this the same way that we did the y-intercept. So the x-intercept is where it crosses the x-axis. So that's the x-axis, and that's the point right there. And where is that point? It's 10. So the ordered pair is 10, 0. 10 is the x, 0 is the y. So now we have to decide, what does it mean? X is number of weeks, and y is amount owed in dollars. Okay, so we're going to say that after 10 weeks, $0 is owed. After 10 weeks, $0 is owed. Okay? Alright, 8, 9, and 10 are writing equations from words, okay? And these are fun. I like these. I really do, especially this kind of word, writing equations, okay? So remember, if we're looking for words, we're looking for a rate, start, or total. That's what we're looking for, one of those three things. So we're reading through. At a concert, floor seats cost $55 each. That's a rate. Balcony seats cost $35 each. Ooh, that's another rate. Anytime we have two rates, we're going to use that fun one that's really easy to do, and that's AX plus BY equals C. That's standard form. And then it says, write an equation to represent the possible number of tickets that each type can be purchased for $600. So that's my total. Okay? So it's AX plus BY equals C. So rate 1 is going to be A, so that's 55X, plus rate 2 is going to be B, so that's 35Y equals, and then the total is 600. And you're done. You can use better letters if you want to, or you can just use X and Y, because it didn't tell you what letters to use for those. Alright, number 9. A 100-point test has X questions worth 3 points each and Y questions worth 5 points each. Ooh, I see two rates. So, okay, 3 points each is rate 1, and 5 points each is rate 2. And then it says, oh, so there's got to be a total in there somewhere. Oh, 100 points is my total, right? My test is worth 100 points. Okay, so then we just write our equation. AX plus BY equals C. Rate 1 is 3, so 3X, plus rate 2 is 5, so 5Y equals, and my total is 100. See, I told you I love these. They're so easy. If you can see two rates in a problem, I love those. Those are so easy to write. Okay, the last one on this page. The Ramey family bought 6 sandwiches and 4 salads. They spent $32. Let X be the cost of a sandwich and Y be the cost of a salad. Okay, so I'm going to do 6 times the number of sandwiches. I'm just going to say X. And 4 times the number of salads equals $32. And the reason that I knew this is because I could find a total in there, okay? If you can find a total, then you for sure are going to be using standard form. Actually, I should take that back. If you can find a total, most of the time, they're going to be telling you to use standard form. Sometimes they give you a total and ask you to solve for a letter, but if you're just writing an equation and they give you a total, they're probably going to make you use standard form, okay? So that's most of the time. Okay, 6 sandwiches and 4 salads, they're not really rates, but 6 times the cost of a sandwich is, and 4 times the cost of a salad is. Okay? Alright, let's move on to the next page. And the next page is talking about the airplane's altitude. So what you're going to do first is you're going to find the slope of the line. So let's find the slope of this line. So I'm going to pick 2 points, and I think I'm going to pick this one and this one. Why not? Okay, because I like to pick them as close together as I can. So how much is it from 8,000 to 7,000? That's 1,000. And how much is it across in one place? 2 to 3. It's only 1. So my slope is going to be change in y over change in x, and that's going to be 1,000 over 1. Now some people are like, Miss Ash, why would you pick 2 points in the middle when they gave you 2 points on the ends? That's totally fine if you wanted to do that. So then your slope would be 10,000 high over 10 across, and then you would just have to simplify that on your calculator. Okay? The next question says, what does the slope mean in this situation? So change in y over change in x. Remember, to find the way the slope means, we write this, and then we write, what does the y mean? Well, the y means altitude in feet. Oh, hold on, let me write the actual slope. 1,000 altitude. Okay, so 1,000 over 1. So we're going to put feet, and then what does the x stand for? Well, that's on the x-axis, and that stands for minutes. So this means that the airplane descends at 1,000 feet per minute. And by the way, I said that word descend, okay? And that means to go down, to go lower, get lower. All right. Okay, what is the y-intercept? So the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So here's the y-axis. Where does it touch the y-axis? Way up here at 1,000. Remember, y-intercept is when x is 0. So we're going to say 0, 1,000. Okay? And then to interpret that, we have to put x underneath and y underneath. And what does the x stand for? X stands for minutes, and y stands for feet. So the y-intercept means 0 minutes, 1,000 feet. Okay? So we can say the y-intercept means we started at 1,000 feet. Okay? Alright. What is the 0? Remember, 0 means x-intercept. We're trying to get that word into your head before we move on to quadratics, because they use that word all the time in quadratics. So the 0 means we're talking about the x-axis. So where does it touch the x-axis at? Touches it at 10. So this means 10 on the x spot, 0 on the y spot. And we've got x and y. X means minutes. Y means feet. So this means 10 minutes, 0 feet. Okay? Or we can say after 10 minutes, we've hit the ground. Okay? The plane landed. Okay? All right. The next set is talking about parallel slope and perpendicular slope. So remember, parallel slope means that it's the same. And perpendicular slope means that we have a negative reciprocal. Okay, so just keep that in mind when we're doing these slopes. So I'm going to highlight the slope in each of the problems. That's the number before x. Okay, so 7 is the slope in the first one, 1/2 is the slope in the second one, and then here we've got negative x, which is really just negative 1x. Okay, so parallel slope is the same. So on this line, we're just going to put the same slope, 7, 1/2, and negative 1. Okay, pay careful attention to the actual negatives and positives, okay? That's one of the biggest problems kids had last year on this test. They didn't write negative 1, they just put a 1. And that's not right. Remember, we have to make sure we say it's positive or negative. Okay, so for perpendicular slope, that means I'm going to take the negative reciprocal. So what that means is, if you look at this slope, you're going to have the opposite sign. That's what the negative part means. So this slope is positive 7, that slope is negative. This slope is positive 1/2, that slope is negative. This slope is negative 1, then this slope has to be positive. Okay? So there's 2 steps to finding perpendicular slope. Okay? First we have to make it the opposite sign, then we have to take the reciprocal. So remember, this slope, 7, that really means 7/1. So to get the perpendicular slope, I'm going to switch the numerator and the denominator. So that's going to be 1 on top and 7 on bottom. So it's 1/7. So I've taken the negative and I've flipped it. Okay, so for 1/2, I'm going to flip it. It's going to be 2/1, or just 2. So I've taken the negative and I've flipped it. For 1, okay, well that means 1/1, right? So when I flip it, I get positive 1. I still get 1/1. Remember, we have to flip the sign from negative to positive. Okay? Alright, so let's look at 20, 21, and 22 using those same ideas. Let's find the slope. So on 20, I'm going to put a number before x. That's a 1 and a 1. So is this perpendicular, parallel, or just plain old intersecting? Well, if you look up here, we just said negative 1 and positive 1 were perpendicular, right? So we have positive and negative here, so these are perpendicular. Okay. Number 21, find the slope. You've got 3 and negative 1/3. So that means this one is 3/1. This one's negative 1/3. So one of them is positive, one of them is negative, and the numerator and denominator are flipped. So these are also perpendicular. And lastly, number 22, let's look at those. 3/7, 7/3, those are also going to be, well, not perpendicular because they're both positive, right? So we just say these ones are intersecting. Okay? Alright, 23 and 24. Now these are the ones that people are like, Ms. Ash, these are way too hard. Well, we've made them super easy on these 2 questions because the second point over here, it has where x is 0. Y'all see that? If you look at 23 and 24, both of them have when x is 0. So what do we call it when x is 0? Well, that's the y-intercept. So if they give you when x is equal to 0, that makes this way easier to write an equation for. That's b, right? Okay? So if I want to find a parallel slope to y equals 3x, then that means I need to look at this 3 right here, and it has to be parallel, so that means that it's going to be the same slope. So we can cross off a because negative 3 is not the same as positive 3. We can cross out, or b is actually right for slope. C is not the right slope, right? That's the negative reciprocal, so not C. And D also has the correct slope. So now our y-intercept has to be at negative 4. So I'm going to pick answer choice B, or sorry, D for dog, because it says negative 4 at the end. Okay? So 23 is D. On your test, if they have a line for you to fill in the blank, please write that line in there to fill in the blank. Alright, number 24. Same thing, perpendicular this time. So the slope is 3. So we're going to take 3 and we're going to take it and make a negative, because this one was positive, so that one's got to be negative. And then we've got to flip it. So it's 3 over 1. We're going to flip it, so it's going to be 1 over 3. That's called taking the negative reciprocal. So let's see, anything that doesn't have negative 1 over 3 next to x is going to be wrong. And then we have to look, our y-intercept is positive 5. So that's answer choice B. Okay. Woohoo, we're on the last page. Right? Everybody feel good about that? Oh, look, we're graphing. I love this. This is the easiest stuff to do. How many of you really took to that Hoy-Vux thing? I hope you did, because it's such an easy way to remember how to graph these lines. I went through high school and did this, and I was always confused because nobody ever taught me that acronym. And I feel like the acronym makes it so much easier to explain and remember. So we've got Hoy, H-O-Y, and we've got Vux, V-U-X. And on purpose I wrote Vux up and down so that I can see that that means vertical, okay? So when you look at your equations, you're just going to go, okay, this is a y, that's in the word Hoy, so we're going to say it's a horizontal line. And we're going to go to the y-axis and put a dot at -1, and then we're just going to draw our graph. Okay, just draw a horizontal line. Then we have x, that's Vux, so that's going to be vertical. And so we're going to go to the x-axis at -3, put a dot, and then you just draw a vertical line through that dot. Okay? Alright. 27, that's a Hoy. So it's horizontal. And we go to the y-axis at -4, put a dot, and then draw a horizontal line through those points. Okay. And lastly, that's an x, so that's a Vux, vertical. So we're going to go to axis 3, put a dot, and draw a vertical line. And we're done. Okay? Alright, I hope everybody gets those right on the test, because those are the easy ones. I love those. Those take like 3 seconds. Alright, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you ask your teacher or any of us if you have any questions. Ms. Pavlaki, Ms. Klepak, and I are all available to help you. Have a good day.